Sometimes history doesn't pivot on a battlefield or in a palace. Sometimes it happens in a lecture hall. Today, we're going to zoom in on one single academic hour that became an absolute landmark event, Marie Curie's very first lecture at the Sorbonne. So, let's go back in time. The date is November 5th, 1906. We're in Paris, and the atmosphere right outside the Sorbonne is electric. It's totally unusual for a university lecture. A newspaper at the time, La Presse, described it as an extraordinary animation. Basically, a buzz, a hum of anticipation that just filled the air. This was clearly way more than just another day of classes. And we're not talking about a small gathering here. The scale of this crowd was just immense. You had more than 300 people all pressing up against the gates, absolutely determined to get inside and see what was about to happen. What's really fascinating is who was in that crowd. I mean, it wasn't just physics students. Of course they were there. But you also had the intellectual elite of Paris, politicians, foreign diplomats, and really crucially, women's rights advocates. And then you had these high society women in enormous hats turning a science event into a social spectacle, right alongside a whole swarm of journalists and photographers. Please remember to subscribe to our channel and turn on the notification bell. Share and like our videos. The information in this explainer is compiled from open sources. Thank you. Inside the physics amphitheater, the scene was somehow even more intense. The lecture was supposed to start at 1:30, but by then, every single seat was gone. People were jammed into the aisles, packing every last inch of standing room until guards actually had to close the gates. It was getting dangerous. You could just feel the anticipation in the air. So you gotta ask, right? Why? Why all this fuss for a physics lecture? What was it that turned a simple academic appointment into this huge moment that, it seemed, the whole world was watching? Well, the context here is everything. Just 7 months earlier, on April 19th, Marie's husband and her scientific partner, Pierre Curie, was killed in a truly horrific street accident. The world of science was just reeling. Then, in a move that was absolutely groundbreaking, the Sorbonne appointed Marie to his vacant professorship. This made her the first woman ever to hold that kind of position in its centuries-long history. And just think about the incredible journey she had taken. She came to Paris as a Polish student because she was barred from attending university back home. She was one of only 23 women in a science faculty of nearly 2,000 men. She and Pierre made their Nobel Prize-winning discoveries in what she herself called a poor, shabby hangar. And now? Now she was the first female professor at the Sorbonne, about to command the grand amphitheater of French science. It's an incredible story. And let's be crystal clear, she earned this. Oh, she earned it through sheer, unadulterated brilliance. Back in 1903, she had already become the first woman in all of France to get a doctorate. And her thesis, it wasn't just good. The examiners literally declared it was the greatest single contribution to science ever written. She was, in every single sense, a giant in her field. These are her own words, talking about what it felt like when she first arrived at the Sorbonne as a student. You can just feel that sense of liberation, right? That profound joy of finally entering a world that had been denied to her. And so this lecture, happening in the very same building, it was the culmination of that entire journey. Okay, let's go back to that packed amphitheater. The clock hits 1:30, and that buzz from hundreds of voices just stops. A deep, expectant silence falls over the room. Every single eye is locked on a small wooden door at the front. And then, the door opens. A pale woman in a simple, unadorned black dress walks in, almost shyly. The room just erupts, a massive, thundering ovation, but she doesn't even acknowledge it. Her face is completely impassive. She walks straight to the podium and her gaze is fixed, not on the aristocrats and politicians, but right over their heads, landing directly on her students sitting in the front rows. The audience, well, they held their breath. They were expecting drama. They were waiting for a tearful tribute to her beloved husband, some kind of acknowledgement of the historic weight of this moment. They were all ready for an emotional eulogy for the man whose place she was now taking. But Marie Curie gave them absolutely none of that. She looked at her students and with her very first words, she just began to teach. She said, when one considers the progress that has been made in physics in the past 10 years, she picked up the course of study at the exact sentence where Pierre had left off. This wasn't an oversight. This was a powerful, powerful declaration. It was a statement that the work, their work, would continue. That science, their shared passion, it transcended even the most profound personal tragedy. It was a declaration of her own identity as a scientist, first and foremost, not just as a widow. The press got it immediately. They understood the significance. That very same day, the newspaper Le Journal didn't just report on the physics. They called her lecture a great feminist victory. And they ended their article with this stunning line: "In truth, I tell you, the time is near when women will become human beings." And in that moment, the lecture stopped being just about physics. It became a symbol. This quiet, determined woman in a simple black dress, standing before the entire establishment of French science and simply doing her job, had helped redefine what was possible for women, not just in academia, but in every corner of society. Which really just leaves us with this one last thought. What is it that turns a lecture into a legend? It's not just the words that are spoken, is it? It's the journey of the speaker, the incredible weight of the moment, and the meaning that everyone in that room, and all of us for generations to come, brings to it.